I completed 100% of 30 games this year, 45 games since the last time I made a tier list video, so it's time for another ranking session. To begin, I just wanted to thank you very much for all the support on the main channel and on this second channel. We've got 100,000 subscribers on the second channel. I don't think I've said that very much, but it's worth saying. Very grateful for what I get to do. It's honestly ridiculous. But today we've got to get some ranking done. I've got a lot of games here. To help me be concise, I've come up with the spicy juicy scale. But juiciness is basically about the gameplay. How juicy is the gameplay? How much can you sink your teeth into the actual stuff you're doing in the game? And the spicy rating is more about the flavor, if it's got a bit of a kick to it, or not. So we're talking stuff like story, art style, music, clever mechanics, innovation, clever unique elements, and then I'll give the actual tier rating from S to C, and then meme. I'll explain that later. So let's take it back to July of 2024. We've got Astroneer. On the juicy scale, we got an 8.5. I found it quite juicy. It's got a satisfying sense of progression. You can automate with the miners, the train systems. There's a bunch you can do that was satisfying in terms of automation and progression. I will note that the building was a bit awkward because you couldn't snap stuff down, so it was kind of tricky to actually lay stuff out, and the inventory system was at times a bit clunky, but on the other hand it was kind of a spicy inventory system, which I'll get onto now. The spicy rating of 7. The overall visual feel, good. I like the art style. The vibe was good. It had kind of interesting story elements, but it was a bit disjointed. Probably not a major feature that I thought was particularly spicy, but it was there. I think the fact that you could go between planets and explore an entire planet felt kind of spicy, kind of unique, and I think overall I really like this game. We got to slap it into a solid A tier. It's pushing the realm of S, but it just doesn't quite get there. Okay, Octodad. Deadliest catch. This is why I got the meme game category. Actually, the meme game is more for some of these second channel videos, but I think this just goes into meme, and I'm not even going to give it a juiciness or a spiciness rating, because at the end of the day, you were just a wobbly, noodly octopus. And it's quite hilarious, but it's also extremely enraging. On the other hand, though, it does have quite a charming and funny story to it, so it's a little bit rough just calling it a meme game, but I am just going to put it there because, yeah, it is what it is. Oxygen Not Included, another great game. I know this game's got many die-hard fans. I must say, I'm not one of those. I am a fan though. On the juicy scale, I'm gonna give it a 7. And I know in my heart that it deserves higher than a 7. This game has so much depth of gameplay that can really draw you in. It's just not for me. I've realized I'm not a big fan of colony management. I feel like I don't have enough personal control over what the heck's going on. I tell them to do stuff and then they run off and do it. I'm not like specifically controlling one guy, and it kind of stresses me out. I don't know why exactly, but that was the barrier to me really sinking my teeth into the juiciness of this game, which I know is there, but I like just can't quite, you know what I mean? But it's got automation. There's like overcoming the environmental and logistical challenges that you have trying to feed and make sure the oxygen's all good, and all of that is incredible. I should also mention I didn't do 100% of this game. I guess I lied. This was 100 days. In terms of spiciness though, I have to give it 8.5. It's got the funny, silly duplicates mechanic. It's got a massive charm to it with the art style and the overall vibe and the kind of just goofiness of what's going on, the chaos of it. One thing I thought was really impressive is the more and more challenges unravel that make the previous stuff you thought you'd already fixed and dealt with more complicated again, and then suddenly the map's bigger and you're like, what the heck is this gas that I have to deal with, and like what's going on? Like, it just felt like an expansive thing, and that was a spicy element to it, if that makes sense. Overall, I have to give it an A. For me, it's definitely below Astroneer. I feel like if I'm being purely objective, it deserves to be an S tier, but just in terms of my experience. Okay, Crashlands. I love the game Crashlands, but I'm probably going to give it seemingly harsh scores here. Juicy, we're going to give it a 6. The gameplay loop did tickle me. There's a good sense of progression. You get stuff, you make stuff, you get stronger, you build, you can fight bigger enemies, harder enemies, you get new stuff. That loop was nice, but it did get repetitive. There wasn't quite enough newness to it, like expansiveness to it. It was more like a linear, yeah, we're doing that again, yeah, we're doing that again. Some upgrades felt amazing, some upgrades felt completely pointless. It was fun to make a fleshed out base. It had okay combat, and there was some decent customization with the builds you could do for combat. One thing that was quite rough in Crashlands is some of the enemies were just damaged sponges. It took you like 5 years to kill an enemy. I will give it a spicy rating of 7 purely because of the humor and the made up alien names in it, but it will go into C overall. The Planet Crafter. This one gets an 8 on the juicy scale, I think. I really felt like the gameplay just drew me in from like day dot I was in. I was like zapping the little materials on the floor of this kind of red planet, And from there, it was just, yeah, sweet. Like, I'm on the treadmill. There was enough collecting and building and upgrading combined with exploring to keep it fresh. It's always good when you go from doing stuff by hand to some degree of automation. In this game, you had some miners and you had drones as well. It was pretty fun. There was some goofiness to it, and in some ways it was a bit empty and bare, but overall really, really fun. In terms of spiciness, I have to give it an 8, which I think is quite generous. But for me, the fact that you turn this red planet into this verdant, green, beautiful kind of land, that just felt so cool to me. So it gets an 8 on the spicy, and it slots into A. And I think for me, it has to go above Oxygen Not Included. And now we look at Teardown. This game was phenomenal. This was like a out of nowhere type game. I just found it. I was like, oh, let's give that a crack. And I was like, man, this is fun. So it gets a 9 on the juicy scale. The destruction, satisfying, just fun. And I loved the heists. I feel like they were well designed and balanced quite nicely, where you had a challenging amount of time to work with, where you actually had to really plan out your route. I don't know, it just did it for me. I loved it. And there was enough variety in the heists that it kept it fresh as well. In terms of spicy, it's also a 9. The art style, very cool. The voxel destructible world, it was unique. I'm sure there are other games like it, but for me, I found it quite a spicy thing to just walk into and start destroying stuff. And with those heists, you have the freedom to mow down the destructible world in order to create a path that's going to make it as efficient as possible for your heist. That felt like a unique mechanic to me. So I don't know if this is going to surprise people, but this shoots into S tier for me. I mean, 2 9s is crazy on the spicy juicy scale. Heck yeah. Okay, let's look at Fields of Mistria. This was another 100 days, but I did try to go for 100% of what was available in the early access at that point. But anyway, I try to avoid playing games until they hit 1.0. I did like it though. Like, at the end of the day, its juiciness was 7. It's a Stardew Valley clone, essentially. And that gameplay loop, I'm just a sucker for it. So I got into it, like I enjoyed it. But it wasn't early access, a bit light on content. Some of the balance in terms of min-maxing how much money you make was fun. Some of it was frustrating and like underdeveloped. In terms of the spiciness, it gets a measly 3. It's very much a clone of those genre norms you expect to see in these Stardew Valley type games, which is fine from a juiciness level, but it's not innovative at all. So I think I'll put it in C. It's actually a bit below Crashlands for me. Stacklands. Now this game came out of nowhere. I just saw it. I was like, that just looks interesting. I'll give it an 8 on the juicy scale. The concept of stacking cards, you have to experiment to figure out what's going to work. It all follows quite a reasonable logic, so you can figure it out what the heck you're doing, and then you piece together your little colony and your empire. You had to be strategic and thoughtful with your resource management and how much time you had, especially in the DLC challenges. The mechanics they threw into those were very satisfying, quite challenging. So I really like that. The fact that your board gets bigger and you get more and more stuff, you get a bit of automation happening, always very satisfying. Even the combat had a little bit of strategy to it, wasn't too bad. And for the spiciness, it gets an 8.5. I've seen a couple of games kind of similar since, but at the time, like, I looked at it and was like, it's such a weird game, and yet it's really, really fun and clever. For me, that just felt innovative, and it hit the spicy on the 8.5, clearly. For those reasons, it almost deserves an S tier, but we got to keep it real here. Did I enjoy it more than Astroneer? These two are pretty even for me. I really sunk my teeth into that, but then I think I probably had more like moment-to-moment fun playing Stacklands. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Ogu and the Secret Forest. What a charming game, man. So this one was a sponsored video, and it was a 3 or 4 man team, indie team from South Korea, a tiny development team. I was stoked to get an offer from a team like that, especially for a game like this. It's actually a well-made game that they've poured their hearts into. So I hope I gave them some good exposure. For me, it gets a 7 on the juicy scale. Great exploration, some pretty good combat, some pretty good puzzles, and then plenty of quests and collectibles to find, kind of like a bit of a Zelda-ish vibe as you unlock the world and find upgrades and all that. Not usually the game that I'm super into, so I give it a 7. Spicy, I also give it a 7 for pure charm. It didn't do anything necessarily innovative on the gameplay side of things to make it spicy, but in terms of pure charm, the cute art style and vibe, the story had its moments too. I have to give it a 7 on the spicy, and I think that's our first slot into B. A solid B from me. Stacklands, not much more to say. Stacklands 2000, I've already talked about Stacklands. This is just a DLC, a sizable DLC that adds quite a massive chunk to the game. It was a worthy addition. Added a bunch of new stuff. Added extra automation, which was really fun. Very clever DLC. Slots in right there in the A tier for all the same reasons as its base game Stacklands. We got the Slime Rancher. Okay, so Slime Rancher is another beloved game by some people that I'm personally not crazy about. I just thought it was good. It was fine. We give it a 7 on the juicy scale. You know, that treadmill of ranching the slimes, finding them all, giving them their upgrades in their corrals and all that, feeding them, getting the plorts, making money. Like, that loop is you can sink your teeth into that. It's pretty fun. But it has kind of an annoying movement system. It's like the energy system for sprinting and all that is just frustrating. And some of the upgrades you get are just meaningless, whereas some of them are really meaningful and quite impactful. So it's got some issues, put it that way. In terms of spiciness, just a 6. And honestly, maybe 6 is more than it deserves. It's just kind of cute. And the idea that you're ranching slimes is novel. It gets B. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh here. Maybe it almost deserves C down here. I think I'm gonna push it down to C. It was fine, it was good. Now Grounded, here's a good game. On the juicy scale, the big old glorious Grounded gets a 9.5. Whew, we got a huge map. We got quite good combat overall. There's plenty of build options with your armor and your weapons that you can make. It's always very satisfying in like the RPG element, I guess, of it. And then there's just a clean survival game. The progression of looting, upgrading, building your base, all of that really well done, and you can decorate your base like crazy. You got heaps of options, like just a satisfying survival game. For the spicy, it gets an 8.5, which I think is generous because it's, at the end of the day, it's kind of like a stock standard survival game, an excellently executed survival game, but it's not doing anything crazy innovative. For me, the spiciness all comes from the setting. It's the fact that you're tiny, you're shrunken down. They leaned into quite a good story that was well paced. It wasn't an overbearing element of the game. It was just, you know, you get dollops of story going along that were charming enough and interesting enough. And then it's just this perspective, like a wheelbarrow becomes like this massive obstacle. Insects are now monsters. It's just a novel idea, well executed, and that gets yeah, that's in the S tier for me. Above Teardown, I would say. Phenomenal game. We got Outer Wilds, another phenomenal game. For juicy though, I will only give it a 7. The exploration in Outer Wilds is certainly a very juicy gameplay element. Some of the puzzles are quite interesting, but the key juicy thing is the fact that you're in this loop of dying and you're uncovering and exploring and learning information each loop. And that's how you progress. It's quite a juicy loop. In terms of spicy though, it gets a solid 10. It's got a phenomenal story with great heart to it, great visuals, great soundtrack, great world building and the atmospheric kind of vibe to it. Very cool that you can go between the planets. The whole idea of that loop where you die over and over again is a massively interesting, novel, spicy idea. So that gets the 10 for me. And it has to slot into S. From a gameplay perspective, it'd just be somewhere down here, but that's not what it's about. It really is about experience. It's the experience, which I think is more of like a spicy category, which usually I don't care about as much, but like some of these games won me over and that was one. Contraband Police. This game is like a simulator that it just looks so brain dead boring. Even looking back, I'm convinced it is brain dead boring. And yet looking back, I have to be real that I kind of enjoyed the gameplay loop. So it gets a 7 on the juicy scale. It kind of helped that it was like a decent enough story with enough story beats to mix up the grind of just checking papers at the border, because you had to drive around and you had these little side missions. I don't know, it's something worked. However, it definitely dragged into more like repetitive, frustrating grind at times. So we give it a 7. In terms of spiciness, it's just a 5. You're just a dude on a border, like, I don't know, there's nothing crazy innovative going on here. I think Contraband Police can go into the top of C. These kind of all similar level of enjoyment. Goat Simulator 3, what a ridiculous game. In terms of juiciness, I'm just gonna give it a 7. It's kind of, you just kind of run around and do stuff, keeps you in, and there's just lots of little mini games and fun things and silly things to do, but it's just like, okay, give it a 7. In terms of spiciness, I think I gotta give it a 9. It's just a novel idea that you're a flaming goat headbutting people. It's funny, it's silly, it's hilarious, it's ridiculous. You find all these clever references and things to engage with. I don't know, it's just like the dumbest idea for a game that somehow really is entertaining. With all that in mind, I think it deserves a B, and in fact, I think it beats out Ogu. I'm sorry, Ogu. Goat Sim is pretty fun. Tavern Manager Simulator. Firstly, why do people like watching these simulator games on YouTube? Like, what are we doing? Secondly, why do I like playing it? You're doing menial tasks over and over again, but somehow there's a decent enough progression loop in most of these simulator games where like you just kind of grind, you progress, you get upgrades, the number goes up, it feels satisfying. It's just like solid. Your tavern gets bigger, you get more customers. Satisfying. Spicy, I'll give it a 5.5. However, I will give it props for the fantasy vibe of it. It was quite cool with the goblins and the almost World of Warcraft graphics and certainly the references. That added a bit of spice, but the gameplay itself was definitely not spicy, so it is what it is. I think this is C. Here. I'm gonna put it there. Now, Forever Skies. This was another sponsored video and I accepted the offer even though I had my doubts that the game was gonna be amazing. It was their 1.0 release, so I had hopes that it was gonna be well fleshed out, but I have to be honest, I feel like they undercooked it a little bit. Still a solid game overall, and I'll give it a 6 on the juicy scale. Decent sense of progression, but felt a little disjointed at times. Pretty fun exploration, but felt a little empty at times. It was pretty cool building your airship, but even the building system could have been better fleshed out, to be honest. It wasn't quite smooth, so it's a 6, and for the spiciness, also a 6. It earns those spicy points mainly because flying around in that kind of a setting, like the post-apocalyptic setting where you like a poisonous fog cloud below and you're flying above it, was quite novel. It was pretty fun to engage with. Yeah, a little bit of a janky game and overall not my favorite. I think it even goes below Mistria. Yes, Your Grace. This was a very cool game, and it's kind of an interesting genre of game that I'm not well versed in, but yeah, pretty cool. For the juiciness though, it's just a 5.5. It's one of those games where the gameplay isn't really the point. When I say juiciness, I'm mainly talking about what am I actually doing in the game. A lot of the time in this game, you're just reading and watching. The juiciness comes from the decisions you get to make, and the reason why those decisions don't feel super juicy is because they kind of don't matter. Especially in retrospect, when you see where the story goes, you realize some of the decisions, like who you allied with, what you did there, or whatever, it doesn't matter. While I was playing it the first time though, I guess it felt kind of meaningful, but still, it's not really my type of game. It's not really about the juiciness, it's about the spiciness with games like this, and I'll give it an 8. There's a good vibe to the pixel art, it's quite funny, it's pretty well written overall. It's surprisingly moving moments, and it's got good heart to it. The fact that you roleplay as the king making these decisions and there could be hilarious moments is also a spicy element. I will give it a B. It deserves to be up here. I'm not gonna put it above Ogu. Thief Simulator, another one of these simulators where it's like, this just looks stupid and not really well made, and yet it's so fun for some reason. So I'll give it a 7.5 on the juicy scale, the Thief Simulator. I mentioned the heist feel of Teardown felt really good. It was a similar kind of feeling, not as well executed compared to Teardown, but you did feel like when you were stealing stuff, there was an element of planning it out and making it work, and it was actually decently well designed. And yet at the same time, there was some serious jank to it that led to some hilarious moments. I think the beauty of these simulator games is you don't take them too seriously, and then you're surprised by, oh, this is actually kind of fun. So that's why it gets that juicy rating that's decent. For spicy, I'm gonna give it a generous 6, just because like the goofy story didn't take itself seriously and was actually kind of fun. Just the entire concept of a game where you just steal stuff, there's something about it. But it does end up going into, ooh, I'm actually gonna give it a B, man. Something about it I just enjoyed. Pacific Drive. This game is good. This is a good game. On the juicy, I'll give it a 7.5. The roguelike nature of the runs where you go out collecting, but then you come back to base, it kind of makes it a bit disjointed. The progression of the survival element of the game feels a bit weird. It's like undermined by the fact that it's roguelike. I don't know, it's kind of strange. Upgrading and having your car as like the protagonist almost, as this key character that you make look more and more awesome and stronger and more powerful with all this stuff attached to it. That was a thing to really sink your teeth into and enjoy. The spiciness though, this is a 9.5. I thought the setting, the world building was incredible. The supernatural anomalous elements were really interesting and cleverly done. You're constantly looking around for the next weird thing. It's just a spicy thing to behold and enjoy. The whole story device of the car being a remnant and you're supernaturally attached to the remnant because of this powerful, like, it's just all interesting, and overall the story was pretty good as well, with some interesting characters in there. I think if the gameplay of Pacific Drive just grabbed me that little bit more, it'd squeak into S, but I'm gonna give it an A. I did really like Astroneer though. I think it's gotta be up here. I really like Stacklands too. I think it's up here. I really like all of these games. Old Market Simulator is another like weird simulator that's just strangely fun, and for me, I found this very juicy. Making money out of figuring out the best profession to use between farming, fishing, crafting weapons, butchering cows, figuring out what was like the best way to min-max your profit was quite fun. I found it quite juicy. If I was going to rank just on the earlier experience of the game, I'd probably give it an 8.5. But because later on it dragged on, the limitations became clearer, it wasn't balanced. I eventually realized that pushes my juicy score down to 7. In terms of spiciness, just a 5.5. I'll give it props for the way you interact with machines. It's kind of like Astroneer. You actually have to move the specific item onto the machine and then you do all the crafting like that. It's just different. So I thought that was a little bit spicy. I think this is down amongst these guys. Yeah, put it there. Stranded Deep. The juiciness is 7.5. This is like such a janky, ridiculous game. It's kind of like the dumbest boss fights you've ever seen, and yet I don't know, it just really drew me in. I quite enjoyed it. I think because it felt challenging and punishing at first, and then it forces you to take a dodgy raft to a nearby island in order to progress and keep yourself alive. The challenge of that was quite engaging. And the fact that you progress from there to build this massive raft, and then you've got mastery of the seas, surrounded by some of the most janky physics you've ever seen, and like the dodgiest boss fights you've ever seen. So it was a very strange experience. In terms of spiciness, I'll give it a 6. I don't think there was anything necessarily groundbreaking about the survival elements. Maybe because it's quite an old game, it actually was at the time. But in terms of what I've experienced, and I think it squeaks into B, man. Somewhere up here. Let's put it there. That'll do. Mr. Prepper. In terms of juiciness from Mr. Prepper, I gotta give it a 6. The trading system with the letterbox was quite satisfying, min-maxing, trying to figure out how to get profit and build on a bit of an economy. Beyond that, it was just like a decent progression of a decent story. Definitely very cool building like an epic bunker under your house. And in terms of spiciness, I will give it a 7 just because of that setting and the concept of you being that prepper, that awake mind while the government is trying to control you, and you got this bunker. I don't know, it was an interesting setting. Overall a decent game, but I think it joins the seas, man. I think it's just somewhere in here. This may be the year of just like, I played a lot of just solid games. Lens Island, I'll give the juiciness for this a 7.5, which is a really good score. From day one, it did the job for me. I was keen to get into it. You grind, you fight, you build a base, you farm. The classic survival crafting, upgrading loop. For the spicy, I'm going to give it a 4. It just like executed on what it is pretty well. I will say that the fact that it integrated this kind of ARPG top-down style combat reasonably effectively, like the enemy variety is decent and the build variety is also decent. I thought that was actually pretty impressive. So that's where it gets a few spicy points from, but hello, it's another C. Potioncraft Alchemist Simulator. This is a very cool game. I quite like this game. I will only give it a 7 in terms of juiciness. It's relaxing, it's very satisfying uncovering that alchemy map and figuring out how to make potions, a bit of farming, serving your customers, and there's enough to sink your teeth into, but at the same time it's a bit of a grind and quite repetitive. In terms of the spiciness, however, I have to give it an 8.5, which I think is quite a great score. It's got an incredible art style and great vibe to the game. It's actually quite humorous and has a great kind of world built, even with very simple gameplay elements like the characters that show up and the dialogue that shows up. It's got a lot of charm to it. The gameplay itself, it felt like very unique mechanics to me, the way you move your potion around to perfect it and all that. Pretty cool. I think it's a solid B. I think I put it like somewhere there. Game Dev Tycoon. Another kind of surprise for me. For juiciness, I'm gonna give this an 8. This was incredibly addictive. I rarely play long sessions of games, but I think I played one day for like 8 hours straight because I was just obsessed with this game. It's very fun to figure out the combos of the best games to make on what platform and to what audience and all that. Like trial and error, and then you get the feedback, and then you're waiting for your review is always kind of an exciting loop. Later on, you do get disillusioned a bit once you start to realize the rating system, it's not as objective as you think. The spicy rating for this will be 6.5. The concept felt novel. Because I was making a video, it really helped because I wanted to lean into the naming of the games and kind of the role playing of it. Let your imagination run wild with this game because you're getting very much a 2D text-based kind of experience of being a game dev. But if you can imagine beyond that, it feels spicy. Another spicy thing, you go through this alternate version of video game history. I thought that was very interesting and really cool as like a through line to push you through the game. This is another B. Where do we put it? I think it's like there. That's good. Slime Rancher 2, not much to say. This is just like an improved version of the first one. I think, honestly, I feel mean because these devs obviously worked so hard on it and poured their heart into it, but I kind of wish they just made a new game because this is just like a polished version of the first game without doing enough to innovate. If you're into the story side of things, it's great as a sequel. It's an improved version of Slime Rancher 2, but it still sits in C for me. Now, we're on to the premier games of this year, 2025. The best game of 2024. There were some good games I played in 2024, man. Grounded. Clearly, it's up here. Abiotic Factor is phenomenal. Juicy? Give me a 9.5 for Juicy. It's got an incredible sense of the survival crafted progression. There's good combat with great customization options between the weapons and armor you can choose. Kind of similar to Grounded in that way. The exploration is phenomenal. And it's got this, I haven't played many Metroidvanias, but I think it's a little bit like that as you unlock the world and you find more stuff to work with. And then you unlock shortcuts back to the previous areas and suddenly the world's shrunk down again because you got the shortcuts. It feels so juicy to progress through. And of course you get teleportation as well later on, even better. In terms of spiciness, it also gets a 9.5. It's got this incredible, weird, supernatural setting in this facility. It's been done before, but I feel like this was a worthy take on it. The art style, great kind of throwback PS2 almost vibe. That's certainly like a Half-Life vibe. Great characters thrown in there, a good story overall, phenomenal game. Definitely goes into S tier. I think it just gets the edge on Grounded for me because it is a spicier game. I do want to mention, for Abiotic Factor, I've had so many commenters saying, this is the worst game I've ever seen. This game is so bad. Why are you playing this trash game? I'm like, what are you talking about? Firstly, this game's got overwhelmingly positive Steam reviews and is beloved by a lot of people. So objectively, it's not a bad game. It's just not to your tastes. Calm down. Anyway, I don't know why I brought that up. This game's clearly not for everyone, but for me, it's solidly an S tier. I thought it was really good. And Satisfactory. This was like a 6-hour video. This was an 8-hour video. So some big ones to end off 2025. But this gets a 10 for the juiciness. Great sense of progression. It's just so fun. There's just so much to get absorbed in. Overcoming logistical challenges of getting resources where you need them to go, figuring out how much you need, figuring out the efficiency and the maths of what machine goes where and how to get that connected into that machine and how much of that crap do I need? What am I doing here? There's also the creative design puzzle and I guess just like expression, which is really fun for me as well. And this is just an example of a game where early access was done right. They polished the crap out of this thing and released it into 1.0 when it was just a phenomenally good game. And then 1.1, it pushed that even further with more quality of life updates. It just feels smooth to play. It feels overwhelming at first because you're just like, how the heck do I make this all work? Once you progress enough and the game gives you more and more tools, you start to realize, oh, I can make blueprints. I've got my jetpack now. Oh, I've got my hover pack now. Oh, the dimensional storage, especially dimensional storage. What a phenomenal mechanic. It's like a perfect example for me of the amount of effort that goes into getting it, but then you have it and it just feels amazing. But then it's not like crazy overpowered because there are limitations to it, but it's just beautiful. And then there's the exploration. The world is just so well designed, like hand-tailored, crafted world. You gotta find the resources, you can find cool spots to build, and of course you find all the alien artifacts. It's just good. It's just good. I love it. In terms of spiciness, it gets a very generous 8 from me because I'm biased. Something about the feel of it, the setting, the alien elements, the cheekiness of the Ada AI talking, and then the alien it interacts with. Nothing is particularly special about any of that stuff in terms of innovation to warrant crazy spicy rating, but it just felt so fresh to play. But anyway, that goes straight into S at the top for me. I think it probably is up there as my favorite game. I know Baldur's Gate 3 got the top of S tier for my previous tier list video. Satisfactory has to beat it out. I spent 347 hours in my playthrough. Like it deserves top spot. Let's move on to the second channel games, which I think deserve being mentioned because I 100% of them, so get them up there. I'm sure most of you know watching this, but these are just shorter games that just would not fit on the main channel. They wouldn't really fit with the format of narration. You need the raw gameplay experience or else it's just going to be a weird video. Let's go back to September 2024. The first one I did on this channel, the first 100%, was Donut County. On the juicy scale, it gets a 6. It's got some okay puzzles and it's a bit of fun. And it's certainly a novel way to play a game. You're a whole, but that more goes into the spicy category where I give it an 8. Definitely a novel concept, as I said, and kind of a cute story too. It goes into B. The benefit of a game like this, it's only 2 hours long. So you get this morsel of this shorter, well-designed game, and it just it earns its spot into B. Dr. Langeskov, the Tiger, and the Terribly Cursed Emerald. It would go in C, but I'm going to just put it in meme game. It's not enough of a game to deserve, not that little silly meme games don't deserve a ranking, but I think if I did have to rank it, I'd give it like a juicy 4 and a spicy 7. There's not really any gameplay. It's probably a juicy 3 or 2 even. You just kind of walk around. But the fact that you're in the back end of a game, helping it happen, it's a clever concept. It's by the guys who made Stanley Parable. Not Prototype, but this is kind of like their first attempt at that style of game. Anyway, pretty cool. Inside. Now this was a good game. I will only give it a 6 on the juicy scale. It's got decent puzzles. Some of the puzzles are quite good actually, but overall decent, nothing revolutionary. It's got some basic platforming. In terms of spicy though, I'll give it a 9. It's got incredible world building and atmosphere and a unspoken story that you just kind of experience, and I think it actually just goes into A tier. A great little experience of a game. Duck Detective: The Secret Salami. Ridiculous game. On the juicy scale, I'll give it a 6.5. I don't love the detective game having a fill in the blanks format. I don't know what the better way of doing it is, but for some of this, I felt like some of the clues were weird. It's probably I'm just stupid, but anyway, I think it has to go in. See, it's hard. These should be on a different scale because there's such different types of games considering the length, but I think it'll squeak into the back of B. I think that's fine. Game about digging a hole, you dig a hole. It's a meme game. It's pretty fun though. It's pretty addictive. Little Inferno though, this has got a bit of meat to it. I think it took me 7 hours to 100%. For juicy, I'm gonna give it 7.5. It actually is quite fun figuring out all the combos and getting into the chaos of it. It's a bit rough going for 100% because it's kind of a grind. And Spicy will give it an 8.5. The art, the vibe, the creepy vibe, the dystopian weird storytelling, and just like the way you're burning crap in a fire is it's definitely a Spicy experience. Overall, it goes in A as well. Dude, I don't know how these games got into A. I actually think I liked Inside better. The list is kind of weird. Pretend that the main channel games are on one list and the second channel games are on their own list competing against each other, because I feel like for really short games, it's just a whole different ball game of what my expectations are. I'm very satisfied with a certain type of experience from a short game compared to a long game. Does that make sense? Please don't touch anything. This is a great game. In terms of juiciness, we're going to give it an 8.5. The puzzles to get to the various endings, there's a lot to sink your teeth into. It's a bit jarring when I'm too dumb to figure out certain things and I have to like get hints, but overall it was a really engaging experience. I have to give it an 8.5. For spiciness, I'll also give it an 8.5. It's sort of clever idea that you just sat there with the one button and then all the various endings have consequences. I don't know, it just felt very novel and interesting, and I think it goes somewhere up there. It's just a very good game for my tastes. The one who pulls the sword will be crowned king. It's also a meme game. You literally just pull the sword out. It's ridiculous. Not much to say. Make good choices. You got to get down the street without getting squished. Another kind of meme game. This is quite fun. This is just silly and ridiculous, but it is a meme game. I'm also going to put Poppy Playtime in Chapter 1 in a meme game. It's a horror game. I know it's different. I'm sure Chapter 2, 3, and 4 are more fleshed out and better production quality, but the first one's kind of short and a bit janky. No, it's not janky. I'm just going to put it in meme game. I don't really like horror games, so whatever. No one wanted to watch that. This got the worst views on the channel, so we're not going to do any more horror games. Dude, stop. Now this video is like the second highest performing one on Floydsonson after Please Don't Touch Anything, and I'm glad people are enjoying it, and I did enjoy my playthrough, but I think my rating is probably a bit harsher than maybe some people expect. But here it is, juicy 5.5. You're kind of just pointing and clicking. It didn't feel like it grabbed me in terms of, oh yeah, sick, what do I do now? It's just like, I'm just experiencing the game. Cool. And for that type of game with just like okay puzzles, you want the spiciness to be through the roof to really pull you through. But for this game personally, it didn't deliver on that either. I'll give it a 6.5 for the spiciness. The novel concept of you annoying the crap out of the narrator by not doing what he says is quite cool, but on the other hand, it kind of got old pretty quickly for me. I don't know, the through line of story elements, like there was some duck AI crap or something. I think I chuck it down like here somewhere. Probably put it there. Yeah, Dude Stop goes somewhere there. A Short Hike. Now this game is very charming and cute, and it's just a sweet little game. I'll give it a juiciness score of 8 because the exploration, the little things to do, the experience of it just really drew me in. I quite liked it. And in terms of spiciness, I'm gonna give it a 7.5 purely on the back of the art style and the cuteness of this characters and the warmth and the heart of the story. It deserves some props for that, so that's where the spicy gives it some score, and I think that's got to slot into A then. Yeah, I'm gonna put it there, bro. Don't even worry about it. Now we're back at Duck Detective. The Ghost of Glamping is the sequel to the glorious Salami one. I'd give it a slightly better juicy and spicy ratings compared to the predecessor. It's a worthy improvement. It was much smoother. The story was a bit better. The detective clues and stuff were a bit more coherent for my experience. I don't know if the translation was better. I think it's a German game, and I feel like the first one's English translation was maybe a little bit weaker, and that might have been part of my problem. It's a solid game. It's quite fun. There is no game wrong to mention. For the juiciness, I'll give it a 6. It's a point and click game. The puzzles are okay. As you're figuring stuff out, it's interesting, but really you're along for the ride. And in this case, compared to Dude Stop, that spicy ride you're on, I think is much better. So I'm gonna give it a spicy rating of 9.5. It's a very cleverly done story. The meta story elements, you end up in different game worlds and different genres, and you're breaking stuff, and all very clever. And you even end up in the real world outside of the game. Yeah, it's just good. It's just really cool. It deserves to squeak into S tier, just purely off the back of how clever I found it. So I'm gonna chuck it in there, man. I'm doing it. Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. This is a little bit similar to Ogu kind of vibe, but it doesn't have quite as much charm, and obviously it's a much shorter game. But we give it a 6 for juicy and a 6 for spicy. You are a turnip turned sentient by nuclear fallout, so that's kind of cool. And there's a cheeky, funny story to it, but I think it goes into C somewhere around here. That's fine. And finally, we got Thank Goodness You're Here. For juicy, I'm gonna give it a 5.5. The gameplay just like isn't there. Again, it's one of these games where it's not really about the gameplay. You don't really do anything that exciting. It's about the silly story and the humor. So for spiciness, it gets an 8.5. Certainly the spiciness of it made it worth playing for sure. It's hilarious, irreverent, ridiculous humor. I guess it's a wonderful insight into Northern English. culture. Hopefully somewhat exaggerated. I don't know if it's actually like that in Northern England. That sounds terrifying. When the gameplay is not really gripping me, I'm pretty hard to win over, and this game certainly did the job with its ridiculous humor. So I will just give it a solid B, I think. I think I'll put it somewhere around there. I think it deserves to be there. Just for the hilarity of it. You can see what kind of gamer I am with the spicy juicy rating, I hope. I really do prioritize juiciness. Generally, I need to feel like what I'm actively doing is really engaging and drawing me in. But anyway, that's the list. Feel free to let me know what you think below. And let me know what you'd like me to play for this channel, shorter games, and also for the main channel, longer games you think I should 100%. But that is it for 2025. It's been a massive year of many fun and ridiculous games. I hope you enjoyed watching all of these videos. If you haven't seen any of these, feel free to go back. But thank you so much for watching.